I've been thinking about your metrics. You've talked to us in a couple different episodes about how you expose certain metrics to your employees and things like that, and how you think about everything from cancel rates to revenue per hour or
Yeah.
revenue per day, things like that. Like these are very novel concepts in the PT world, but very normal in every other industry.
Yeah.
Most practice owners that I hear complaining about, you know, okay, here's the deal. The rule should be now, like on all these group email lists, the rule should be that you cannot talk about payer reimbursement rates unless you can prove that you've already built your own internal models and you know exactly where your profitability is getting cut.
When I was doing my market research when I started my own PT clinic, the data was not totally reliable where I was reading it from, but I read that, over 70%, and this was probably a few years old at the time, but it's probably based on maybe mid 20 early 2010s numbers, but said 70% of private practice physical therapy offices are owned and operated by a PT. Now I know since in the
Hmm.
last 14 years that number has gone down a lot with all the private equity coming in and the big companies taking over, but it's still probably pretty high compared to other healthcare fields.
Yep.
Maybe dentistry
Yep.
is very very close, but um,
Yeah.
but I think that in general we have always had a profession that you could be an owner operator and just do a good job in the clinic and kind of trust that your reimbursement rates were going to be good enough to make a profit, not knowing really what you're doing as far as the metrics go in the business. And that's definitely falling apart. And now I think that I'm just speculating, but I think that maybe the private equity companies are coming in here knowing that they have this model already figured out by other fields of healthcare that they've already gone into. They recognize that this exists where most of the practices they're acquiring are poorly managed and run and or not maximized, I should say. And then maybe they're not poorly run, but they're not paying attention to the right numbers, and they know that they can come in here and
Right.
have their team start doing that, and maybe they can flick off 15% right there, 15-20%, not only changing the things that they know they can change. And I know private equity acquisitions and mergers don't just happen overnight. So I mean, if these cuts at some point, I think the tide will there will be that turning point where we take another 7% and 5%. I mean, all of a sudden, with inflation and employment costs and everything going up, there might be a time where our market dries up a little bit more.
If you'd like to learn more about Strata PT and see how our EMR and RCM works, head over to stratapt.com to book a demo.